Have you ever felt the need to purchase a nimble city car with the added bonus of a convertible roof to let you breathe in all of the city fumes? Me neither, but if you have, this is everything that you need to know about the Smart ForTwo Cabriolet. But before we get into what I'm sure is going to be an exhilarating review, I just need to ask a favour. If you like my content and you want to see more of it, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps out small creators like myself so that we can continue making the content that we want to make. But enough about all of that. Sit back, relax, and be prepared to be absolutely blown away by this wonderful Smart ForTwo. Now, there's a reason it's the best convertible city car in its class, and that's because it's pretty much the only one of its size. Although some would argue that it's basically pointless as a concept, it is oddly quite charming in a really weird way. Though I have to be completely honest, I do feel like a little bit of a knob driving it. The Smart car definitely does not come with street cred included, and that's before you consider the fact that this is a cabrio. And on the topic of the Cabriolet, it cost £3,490 more than the hardtop from factory. And look, if we were in California, I'd completely understand the concept of this car. It would make total sense. However, in good old Britain, we get about 5 good days of weather per year, and the air smells like a mixture of bin juice and exhaust fumes at the best of times. So in this country, I do struggle to see the point of this Smart Cabriolet. Cabriolet slander aside, the exterior of this car really isn't too bad. It's quite smart, if you'll pardon the pun. You have front lights, which they do indeed light up the front of the car. They don't do anything else. You've got the main focal point, which is this honeycomb grille, which I really like the design of. I think it really adds something to this otherwise very, very basic front end. You've got down here a little bit more mesh style grille with fog light cutouts with no fog lights, because why the hell would you need fog lights? They're not essential. You've got side lights here because you need them because of the law. But apart from that, there's not really a lot going on at the front. It's real simple back to basics motoring, which I think some of the manufacturers nowadays need to pay more attention to, because we don't need all of these features that they keep giving us. This side profile certainly takes some getting used to. It feels like a weird sort of fever dream in which the door takes up about 75% of the whole space. When you open it though, you've actually got pillarless doors, which is quite a nice touch as it's a cabriolet. You've also got these plasticky door handles, which, if I'm completely honest, I feel like they could have done a better job. That's a little bit lazy to leave them as these horrible plastic. You've got door mirrors, again, great for seeing behind you. That is it. There is nothing else going on at the side of this car. I like the fact that they've put this line in the middle of the door to try and break it up a little bit. But yeah, apart from that, I don't really have anything else to say. There's some drum brakes at the rear as well, which is a little bit rare for a 2016 car. But for a car that weighs a little under 1 ton, it really doesn't need disc brakes on the back. So I kind of understand it from a cost point of view. Like I said, the recurring theme of this car is minimalism. And from the back, it's really no different. There is not a lot going on apart from the essentials. From this angle, let me know if you agree with me. It looks a little bit like a cheese grater, but there's no chance of you cutting your fingers on this smart car because all of the lines and the accents are quite curved and smooth. No sharp, horrible edges anywhere. Now, I'm afraid I have some very bad news for any of my viewers who are active serial killers. You are not going to get by with this Smart Cabriolet, I'm afraid. It's 260 litres in the back of here, so your prospective victims will not fit in the back of this smart car, nor will your tools like your axes or your swords or whatever the hell you guys use in your trade. I'm not really sure. But one positive about this boot is that you could fit a weekly shop in there for maybe a couple. Families would struggle. However, as well, I do quite like this tailgate design. You open it and it flops down a bit like one of those off-roaders, like a BMW X5. As you may or may not know, Smart is a sub-brand of Mercedes, meaning that this car has the underpinnings of a Mercedes. However, some of the parts, such as the interior infotainment screen and other various interior parts, are actually from Renault, making this a weird sort of French Germanic hybrid car. It's powered by a 1 litre non-turbo petrol engine pushing out 70 brake horsepower, which will propel the smart car to 60 in a blistering 15.5 seconds. And I'm going to demonstrate that now and see how close we can get to that estimated time. Now, I won't know what it does, but I'm going to flash up a timer here for you guys to track along what the 0 to 60 is. So without further ado, brace yourselves. This is 0 to 60 in the Smart ForTwo Cabrio. 3, 2, 1, go. 10. We've just reached 20. 30, gear change. 40. 50. Oh my God, it feels awful. And 60. I don't know how fast that was, but it felt like a flipping lifetime. Oh my God. It's possibly the slowest car that I've ever driven in my life, but I'm smiling because it's very, very fun. This car is absolutely terrifying to drive at high speeds, but what isn't so terrifying is the interior design of it. If you have a look just down here, the heater controls are like something out of one of those cars that you'd have when you're a toddler, the little Tykes one, but weirdly, it kind of suits the vibe of this car. These seats are really actually quite premium and a really nice design, and they're very comfortable. They are also heated by this button right here. I think for a car of this size, they're really quite nice. And if I cover this logo in the middle and you squint really, really hard, it kind of looks like the steering wheel out of a Mercedes A-Class. No, it doesn't really, to be honest. I'm just having you on. But it is quite a nice design anyway, and the buttons are very easy to use. I'll be honest, to say that this car handles well would be offensive to any other car on the road. At the end of the day, it's a square wheelbase. It's never going to go around the corner well. It's never going to compare to anything like a Mazda MX-5 or a Fiesta ST, to name a couple of cars. But you can't help but smile when you chuck this thing into a corner. It's ridiculous. It handles like a boat. It feels like it's going to topple over at any point, but I'd argue that that's the fun of driving a tiny little city car like this smart car. And though its performance is lackluster in terms of power, it is still oddly quite charming. You put your foot down, you have to wait about 5 seconds for anything to happen at all. And when you come out of a corner and you pin it, the automatic gearbox really just kind of lets out a bit of a sigh and says, well, I suppose I'll give you some power now, no problem, sir, and then you'll be on your way. And I must say, driving a car with 70 horsepower really quite humbles you. It makes you realise just how lucky you are to drive something above 100 horsepower. I will never again complain that my 3 Series BMW is slow, because compared to this car, it's an absolute rocket ship. One thing about this smart car that I can attest to, however, is that as a 5'10" male who constantly feels like he's average height, this smart car makes me feel like I'm a huge 6'6" giant. I'm going to say something quite controversial here, and you're going to hate me in the comments for it. I right now am having more fun driving this little plucky city car around than I ever would driving a Golf R or an Audi S3, because those cars are just so simple. You put your foot down and they do 0 to 60 in 3.5, 4 seconds, whatever the hell it is. But at the end of the day, they're boring. They don't have character. This smart car has tons of character. It's stupid. It makes no sense, but that's why I love it. One thing that I've got overwhelming anxiety about whilst driving this smart car, especially as I've had more time to think about it, is what would happen if I had a collision in this car. It just feels like it would probably crumple a bit like a crisp packet, and it doesn't look like it's got much in the way of protection in the event of a crash. It is in a low insurance group, it's in 5E, correct me if I'm wrong there. So that means surely, in my head, it's got to be safe, and it's also efficient as well. There are a few cool features of this smart car, starting off with the vents for the aircon actually look like mini little Mercedes logos, which is a really cool touch. And if you can even hear me over the wind noise, above 35 miles an hour, it's almost unbearable in here. But luckily, one cool feature of this smart car is that it doesn't matter what speed you're going at, you can operate that roof and you can shut it or open it at any time that you wish. Another thing is that this car has got a sport button. Now, I don't think it really affects the performance. It does, however, affect the gearbox. It means that it goes from mild sort of confusion and worry to absolute panic when you pin your foot. It doesn't know what the hell to do with itself. It's not really annoying, it's more just quite funny and entertaining, and it's a little quirk that you'd get to live with if you owned one of these Smart ForTwo Cabriolets. And finally, the turning circle is under 7 meters, meaning that you can do this. You now join me for possibly the most important segment of any Josh road test. We're doing the Mackey's drive-through test. Now, first thing to comment on is that there's a really tight gap just coming up here that I wouldn't usually be able to fit through, but I can shove ahead in the line because I drive a Smart ForTwo.
Hiya, can I take your order, please?
Hi, could I just get a medium Diet Coke, please?
Yeah.
That's everything, thank you.
Thank you, next window, please.
Cheers. We're just at that point where the 2 lanes merge into one, and it's always the worst part, especially if you've got a big car. But because I'm in a smart car, I don't think anyone could even hit me if they tried, because I take up that little space of the lane. It's got to be the longest that I've ever waited in a McDonald's queue, and it just would be the time where I'm trying to film. I don't even know what the holdup is. We're literally just sat here, haven't moved. Whilst we're here, minor complaint, this vanity mirror doesn't have a light, so how the hell am I meant to see my beautiful face in that at night? Thank you. Thank you, cheers. Well, I can confirm that it passes the Josh drive-through test. It's even got very good cup holders, which currently have 2 cups in them with no trouble at all. So big green tick for the Smart Cabriolet there. Now, the important part of the video, my verdict. Would I buy a Smart ForTwo Cabrio? Well, short answer is no, I probably won't. But that's mainly because it just wouldn't fit my day-to-day lifestyle. It doesn't have enough boot space, it doesn't have enough seats, the engine is too small and too underpowered. But that's not to say that this car isn't the perfect car for some people out there. It's a great demonstration of back to basics motoring with some of the modern touches that you'd want out of a car. It's got rear parking sensors, cruise control, heated seats, and for the basic person who doesn't need much out of a car, this car is more than enough to fulfill so many people's needs. So short answer, no, I wouldn't buy it for myself, but I do recommend it to a certain crowd of people out there. And as I sit here and reflect on my experience with the Smart ForTwo Cabriolet with my Diet Coke in hand, all I have left to say to you is that I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content moving forward. I'll catch you guys in the next one, which hopefully will be a little bit more interesting than this smart car has been for some of you. Cheers.